inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything.
All right, people, vetters, welcome to another Vetted live stream. I've got some great special guests with me here today so we could do a follow-up on kind of a viral video that Vetted did a couple weeks ago now, I guess it's been, about the James Webb discovery, right? Then potentially this massive non-human object headed for Earth. Should we all be worried? We're going to dive into that and kind of follow up. We've got a lot of different information on that. We're also going to be looking at the James Fox trailer for the new documentary, The Program, as well as an update on Roswell. So let me introduce my guest here. Actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
All right, Dan, introduce yourself to the vetter audience here.
Sure. I am a mental health professional. I have a PhD in clinical psychology. I slightly chuckle because it's not really directly UFO related, but I have a big passion on the topic. Joined Twitter kind of 2018 and been actively following a lot of the same stories these guys have, and not in the same sort of pro level as them, but I'm just grateful to be here and engage in some discussion today.
Awesome. Clint?
I'm Clint. I host Nightshift. It's a YouTube channel, less of a show, more of a support group for UFO nerds who get kicked out of their friend groups or family units. You spend too much time on YouTube. Come hang out with us.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone's familiar here. I've had Dr. Dan on before as well. When Brandon Fugel, is it Fugel or Fugel? I always say that wrong, Dan. Fugel. That's what I thought.
Okay. He's not frugal. He's not generous and charitable.
Yeah. Dr. Dan was on that episode with Brandon, actually brought Brandon with him and helped facilitate that whole thing. That was a great episode. So if you haven't already, please go check that out. I will add all the links to everything after we do the live stream for everything I showed today, including that interview with Dr. Dan, which I highly recommend checking out. And of course, Clint joining us here with Nightshift. And Simon is, I think, running behind. Not sure entirely. So I've sent him out a message, and we'll just kind of go with this, and hopefully he will join us as we, move along here. So
Cool.
With that said, gentlemen, I do have a tradition here on the show, and we're just going to start with that tradition because I think we got enough people watching here. A little over 500. Usually I like to wait till it's over 1,000, but let's just do it now. Which is, we're just going to shout out where we are all from, and let the vetters throw that in there in the chat, and then I'll shout it out. Particularly Dr. Dan right now, who is in South Carolina, okay, and dealing with the hurricane, and literally his house is running on a generator right now. So shout out to Dr. Dan, first of all, for just being able to do this, coming in here, hardcore. Thank you, Dr. Dan, for that. So South Carolina, I'm in Texas. Clint, where are you streaming from today?
I'm in Florida today.
Florida, baby.
Hurricane. Yeah.
There we go. Just dodged a hurricane.
Same one.
It's like Pecos Bill, baby. Tacoma, Washington. We got another Florida. Lake Worth, Ellesmere Port, UK. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I hope so. Basingstoke, Hampshire. South Wales, Redmond, Washington. Somerset, UK. Moorhead, Kentucky. Panama City, South Dakota. Lancashire, Portugal, Germany. Clinton Township, Michigan. There we go. Utica, New York. Rochester, New York. Bay City, Texas. Oh, I love that place. Salem, Oregon. Vancouver, Canada. Arkansas, Prague, Charlotte, Kansas. Look at that. St. Louis, Lossiemouth in Scotland. Bonnie, Bonnie Lossymouth. Oh, I hope I'm saying that right. My apologies there. Denmark, Atlanta. For this, y'all. Worldwide audience. Another Denmark, Netherlands, Portugal again. Wherever you're watching, thank you so much. We appreciate you for tuning in, and you get to see what a global audience the vetted community is. So, look, without further ado, I say we jump in and do this. Springfield, Oklahoma. Okay, I'm trying to get all those guys. Amsterdam, India, England. Okay, let's go. James Webb. Okay, look, as you know, a couple weeks ago, again, we made a video with Clint was here, Pavel, who couldn't make it today, and Simon about this James Webb discovery. All right. And little did I know that video would go absolutely bonkers. Far outside of the UFO community, even so much as to be mentioned in a Snopes article. And that's when you know you've made it, when Snopes covers you. Right. So I'm going to play a little clip from TikTok because I didn't know this. I'm not on TikTok. Even though Vetted has an account on there, I don't use it. And I just set it up to sort of hold the name if we ever got on that platform. Apparently, it went kind of viral on TikTok. When I say viral, I mean, tens of millions of views, and was not expecting that myself. But one TikTok in particular, I'm going to bring up on the screen, and we're going to watch that to sort of catch us up, because this will just sort of catch us up on what we heard on the last episode. Okay, so we can kind of dive into some of these things here. So let me play this video. I don't think it gets bigger than that.
I think the big announcement is going to come.
Oh, wait, let me start the beginning.
There are briefings unclassified where people from Congress are being told that James Webb made a discovery. The second discovery was tasked to look at a possible incoming contact, so an object that they spotted. This person that I've been talking to was asked to not talk about the details yet, but they can tell me that the first discovery, the lights, came from ESA, the European Space Agency. The other one is coming from the USA Canadian team, also from James Webb, though, but they're the ones leading this investigation. It was tasked from either the NSA or the DoD. They don't know who's the one tasking it. This object is making moves, braking moves, and course correcting moves. So that means that it is not a natural satellite. That means that it is not an asteroid either. It's coming this way, and it is massive. I wasn't given speed of this object. I wasn't given dimensions. It was very vague, and this is what Congress people are being told as well. But there is another nugget of information that they're being told, which is the reason they are doing these unclassified briefings, because apparently there is some level of urgency. That doesn't mean that it's a threat, but it needs to be looked at and it needs to be studied.
I think we found we could possibly have found a signature of an ET, of an alien technological signature. We can't really nail it. We need more data, but that's what they're doing right now. Pavel, that's why James Webb is looking for optical signatures, and that's why all these telescopes in the world, radio telescopes, are focusing in to get more data and get out of the LIS, get out of the low information zone. I think they found something. So Breakthrough Listen is funded by a very rich gentleman who's put all this money because he knows, money where his mouth is. He knows that something big has been found, and he wants to, I think, in the next whatever 5 years, actually announce that Breakthrough Listen, are actually going to find something and actually have proof. I think the big announcement is going to come from Oxford in England, which is the headquarters of Breakthrough Listen, and on social media, because we're digging.
There are briefings unclassified where people from Congress.
I'm going to stop that. There we go. Okay. Wow. Gentlemen, it's nuts, right? It's nuts here. Okay. You know what, Dr. Dan, I'd like to ask you a question that kind of, brings us up to speed a little bit on what's going on. But Dr. Dan, what did you hear about any of this James Webb stuff? Or if anything? Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. I was dealing with hurricane stuff, so it was like I took 3 days off the UFO world. So, but I looked it up this morning, obviously in prep for this show, and I mean the thing that I heard is that it's a long way away. These course corrections, I don't know how accurate they're going to be, right? Light bends, and there's going to be 100 other variables of why we need to maybe question that. But it could also just be all a rumor and not true. But maybe you guys know something else or have some real data. But I think it's exciting. I mean, I think any news like this is very exciting.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely exciting. Oh, okay. Mr. Holland.
Yeah,
How you doing, sir?
Hi, chap. Sorry, our dog was ill, but I'm here in person, so it's everything's
Oh, please,
good.
no worries. I hope everything's
Yeah.
okay with your pup.
Yeah, he'll be. Yeah, thank you very much.
I've got two myself. Usually my co-host is behind me in this chair, but he has decided to go nap somewhere else. You know how dogs are. I hope he's okay, Simon, for sure. That's hope everything's okay.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Patrick. Hi, Dr. Dan and Clint. Nice to see you
Hi,
both.
Simon. Good to see
Hi.
you.
Yes. Pablo couldn't make it today, so Dr. Dan was so nice to step in pretty much last minute here and just a few days notice to
All
jump
right,
in and
great.
step in. I've had Dr. Dan on the show before. This is going to be a
Sure.
great conversation. Simon, we literally just got started, so you're all good. We looked at a
Oh,
clip
sorry.
kind of
Yeah.
No, you're fine. Yeah, we just
Yeah.
looked at a clip sort of summarizing what happened in the last video that we did that went very viral, Simon, on TikTok and other places.
Did it?
and-
Oh, good.
Oh yeah. It definitely did.
You keep
And,
breaking the internet. Betty just broke
yeah.
the internet like 3 times. They're gonna bill you.
That they're gonna bill me. That's funny.
They will.
No, it even made it to a Snopes article, if you could believe it, Simon.
Oh, yeah,
Snopes
sure.
covered it.
No, it's a real story, and we're about to get full alien disclosure. That's what I'm hearing.
I mean, which is
Where are you hearing?
Okay, so
Dreams.
Sorry, that's just the obvious.
no,
Next
so,
question.
Clint is a really good
Jack
question.
33. Yeah, Jack
Yeah.
Dragon 33 on YouTube commented it.
Trust
one
me, bro.
time, And
.com.
yeah.
Yeah,
ahead,
no. So my family contacts are all in Cambridge radio astronomy, and a very good mate is a retired head of the European Space Agency radio. And it was him originally who told me that about the probable contact or the likely candidate. That's the word I'm looking for. Wake up. Candidate that was discovered from SETI at home that Breakthrough Listen are currently studying. I just think that they're stalling for time. I think they do want a bit more confirmation. I think James Webb has also found something, really. And we're just getting into the final the final blows of how it's going to come out. I think it's going to be definitely a year or less. I mean, we're living in a changed time. That's what I hear anyway. I mean,
Is
I
any
think-
of this new from the last time we all spoke?
I just researched like crazy what Pavel was saying about. I'm not hearing anything about an object. I'm hearing very strong rumors of both. And somebody said something very interesting that I'd like to reveal about both a technological signature, but a technological signature I talked about was about electromagnetic energy from radio telescopes, but they were saying a technological signature of that could be found by the the James Webb Telescope, possibly by looking for chemicals in atmospheres that could only be produced by somebody with a technological, scientific civilization, and that's what I'm hearing anyway.
So they're going to. I'm sorry if I could just jump in one more question.
Of course,
are they going to announce biosignatures that they've confirmed on another planet at the same time? Are you saying they're going to also announce a signal has been received?
That is such a great question because
and these are two separate things. These are not related. They could be two different civilizations, more or less.
Well, that's exactly my question. Exactly. So, have they possibly detected the signatures of life in by a spectrum analysis from James Webb, and have they also found a technological chemical signature? And Clint, that's exactly what I asked. I said, two different planets, and they went, no, it's the same place.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let me see if I'm understanding this correctly.
Yeah,
okay?
Patrick.
I'm going to play the audience today, and us four here. Okay, I will be the audience here. If I'm hearing this correctly, I don't know how long it's been, but this was public knowledge put in, media about James Webb potentially detecting biosignatures on a distant planet. Basically a chemical compound that only life as we know it on Earth produces, and they found that same chemical whatever on this other planet. And then now this technical or technosignature that you're talking about, but they're saying it's coming from the same place, the technosignature and these biosignatures.
That's the most amazing thing, potentially, yeah. And so
wow.
The sign of life, but was found. Good evidence of the sign of life as a biological signature was found and published in Cambridge 6 months ago now. But the breaking news is, I didn't realize this was really good science. You could look for technological signatures in chemistry because, for example, fluorocarbons or something which we might use in air conditioning or cars or fridges, or aren't naturally occurring molecules. They are a constructed molecule. So that's also what Breakthrough Listen and the Webb Telescope are looking. They're looking for signs in every way: optical, electromagnetic, biological, and chemical. So they're really, really putting a lot. There's an enormous push right now, today, for every single instrument on our planet and off planet to look for signatures, and that only in 2024, right now, right here, right now, is that happening.
And technosignatures are a lot more exciting than biosignatures. I mean, they both are, exciting, but
totally.
And together, they're really exciting because that's kind of what you would expect from a planet like ours, right? That has, you'd expect a few different types of technosignature, biosignature, right? That makes it even
right. You would get it
exciting.
From Earth. If somebody from outside Earth looked at Earth, you would. As Dan said, you would radio telescopes probably would pick up the buzz of our EM narrowband frequencies, or quite wide, but I mean active modulation in frequency. But a spectrum analysis was also pick up in our atmosphere, the sign of exhaling and life and other chemicals. And then this new, I think the big story is that it's possible to look for technological signatures using light or infrared.
Sure. No, that's new for me. This is new that it's the same planet allegedly.
Well,
the biosignature and the technosignature.
I think the ability to
go ahead.
Is that ability to look for light on these distant planets, is that something that is new because of James Webb's technology?
Yeah.
That's
No,
the new development.
only its sensitivity and placement in the Lagrange place, in a quiet place in our inner solar system. No, I mean, obviously, I've worked on many films where you can analyze spectral analysis of stars, and you can say that a star in our galaxy, and this was done 20 years ago by Jill Fraber. I got her name wrong. She would look and say there's stars in our galaxy that are richer than our sun in the building blocks of life. So that was the first thing, because the spectral analysis of a very bright point source, a star, was possible, when I was part of astronomy, kind of, or filmmaker, really. But today, James Webb is a game changer, because it's out there and can pick up the spectral analysis of reflected light from an exoplanet. I mean, this is a dream. I mean, it's like you've got the star. Yeah.
Do we know the distance?
No, I asked that to Andrew Simeon, the Breakthrough Listen principal investigator, and he was quite coy about it. He says the technology we've got works better with close stuff. That's all he said. Yeah.
Okay.
So
The article said
it makes
10,
yeah.
article said 10 million light
ahead,
years
Dan.
or something.
Is that the
Right.
K2b planet or whatever? K2, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm kind of slightly, I never ask, and I'm kind of slightly reluctant to name. People are always asking me, where is it? Like, what does it matter, really? I mean, what are you going to do? Go, oh, it's that one. I'm not.
I mean, is it conceivably close enough that we could initiate formal contact in some meaningful way? That maybe it takes a decade to send a packet of information and a decade to get an answer, but at least now we're talking.
It only takes a decade.
or
It only takes a
however
decade.
long
Well,
Takes a lot
this is
longer
a.
than that, right, Simon?
Or however long,
Yeah.
Oh no, it doesn't. No, that's the film I've been making this week. No, the most obvious breakthrough that we need here on Earth, and the military have been working on, it turns out, since the 1980s, and this is new information that I've just got this week, and I've just had confirmation that it's deployed, is quantum FTL, faster than light communication. And as soon as you've got faster than light communication, its obvious application is distant communication. I mean, initially they want it to talk to from Omaha, Nebraska, Patrick's hometown, to the Red Sea really quickly via satellite. But Clint and Dan, I mean, that's I mean, if I've got a paper now on my laptop that is talking about a second generation of quantum communication for the military. I mean, I'm not going to tell you where it came from, but this is, and they're not even saying it exists, but this is a paper describing how the new second level of it is going to work better. Well, if they're working on the effing second level, I mean, I'm taking that means it's been demonstrated in the laboratory. It's not a fantasy. Quantum tunneling. It's not quantum pairs. It's very confusing. It's the probability of in the quantum world, in the inner world of all our tiny atoms, everything is connected. Everything in the universe at that level is connected by a probability. And it's less probable the further you are away, but the probability doesn't drop to zero. And it's that they're that you can use. The probability of a signal leaving a quantum inner frequency from a subatomic transmitter to it being received 1 billion miles away instantly isn't zero. That's how it works. I mean, how you actually build the pucker, I don't know.
But so this is a traditional transmitter and receiver concept, or would it be like a transmitter, and a receiver, air quotes, which are just two entangled sets of qubits? Would they have to be, in other words, manufactured together, entangled together, and then separated?
No.
Or could we just build one here and talk to another planet?
Yeah. Yes. We're assuming that the other planet is as smart or smarter than us. And I think the first transmission would either be from them using that system that we could receive, or we would transmit using that with instructions, like in Contact, how to build one, and then we could have instantaneous conversation. But I got it really muddled, and a lot of people, physicists, jumped on me. It's not about quantum pairing and entanglement. That is actually not the way that it works. It's about an energy inside the near field quantum which exists everywhere. I thought it was one, an entangled pair we were always talking about. I don't think. Yeah. I think quantum physics is quite confusing. I think the physicists have difficulty in putting it into layman's terms.
Supposing about the communication of messages, not light, because when you hear about the light that we see from 10 million light years, it takes that.
No, that has to take. Yeah. No, the light photons with normal energy levels are restricted to the speed of light. So, Dan, you're absolutely right. I mean, look in the sky, you're looking at a time machine because every light source is timed to the distance it left.
Yeah.
But the Holy Grail is to use I think the best way to look at it is, as I've said, let me try and explain it in layman's terms because I'm not a physicist, is that we, you, me, everything, a rock, we all live in the far field. Everything that we're made up of is subatomic. I mean, inside us. And that inside world of the quantum being quantized world of the tiny, is all connected. And we just happen to be a blobby of big stuff. But subatomically, everything in the universe is interconnected. If you can exploit that, clever bunnies can do it, supposedly, then time is no barrier to communication anyway.
Can I ask you a question? So, I'm looking at some images from the James Webb Telescope, just Googled some images, and you see some amazing, beautiful images, and you're probably not going to see. Well, yeah, you can't see.
Oh, that is Pillars of Creation from James Webb. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. But how are you going to see? We're still seeing points of light. We're not, and light and clusters of light. But how are we meant to see a planet or some large object that's that far away?
Do
that.
Because it's got the resolution, the size and power, and in the infrared frequency of the James Webb, can actually, well, first of all, how were exoplanets found? And there were two ways. From Earth, from Hubble and places, you could see literally a transit of a black dot over a distant star. That was a very simple way of doing it. And then much more interestingly, you could look at how the star is perturbed by the gravitational force of a planet that it must have. It turns out that almost every star burped out rocks and planets, and you can measure where what is causing the star to move by its planets. Now, but James Webb isn't doing that. James Webb, I believe, can actually visually detect actual Mr. Planet. And but Dan, you raise a really good question. And one of the things I think is maybe delaying the confirmation is that somebody's raised the very, very smart point of the tiny technological or life signatures, is that you're seeing reflected light from that star off the exoplanet to James Webb and then back to Earth, well, the light from the star might be influencing the spectrum that is reflected off the planet. It might not actually be a true indication of the atmosphere or the chemical nature of the planet. So it still needs more work, and I think that's what SETI and James Webb and Breakthrough Listen
I like
are.
that the military is not involved in this, because then I'm assuming there's not going to be the same level of confidentiality or stuff they can't share, but who knows?
No, definitely. Who knows is science, and especially the science of astronomy. Less so bioengineering, less so chemistry, but physics. A lot of physics, but physics tends to be very, very kind of more important than your country. But astronomy needs to share data, because if you see something in in upper state New York, you want somebody in Swaziland to go and look for it, and they tend to have, there is already in place a science network that's what I'm tuning in on. I'm reading all this stuff. People are really talking about it, and initially there was tons more funding. Why? And now they're really, really talking about they found something.
So real quick, just want, for everyone listening, watching, there's two different potential discoveries that we talked about in the last show, right? So right now we're discussing this other one, the light signature, right, with the biosignature, and the second one that Pavel had brought up is completely separate, right? This potential massive object heading towards us, which I think a lot of people focused on in that video, that something is headed towards Earth. But I just want people to know there's no sort of new updates on that in particular, except that since the last time we spoke, one of a congressman was asked about it, and he just said no comment. People took that as like, oh, maybe there's something, going on. But these are two separate things. You've got what what Simon Holland. I want to just call you a doctor, Simon. I don't know why.
Just call me Simon.
About you, I know, but you just have that aura about you. You know what I mean, Simon? Like what you're talking about with this technosignature, and then again, what Pavel's talking about is two separate things. The other one
separate
doesn't really have much meat to it, really, other than Pavel's source. Right, saying that this is happening.
I'm not.
Yeah, right on. I just want for people listening to not confuse the two.
No, there's two separate things. I mean, there's an ongoing SETI type research by lots of new organizations now, and the object, I'm really not hearing much more about the object.
No, that's good to know. And look, we keep mentioning something that Simon has brought up called the Breakthrough Listen project. I want to play a quick little video to give us an overview about what that is, so people understand, because I had never heard of it actually, and I don't know I don't know how it didn't get on my radar, and it's absolutely fascinating. And this is a great creator on YouTube who does a great job of explaining stuff, and I thought I'd give her just a couple minutes here to kind of explain what this Breakthrough Listen project is real quick here. All right. And that was supposed to be a lot smoother, y'all. I was going to hit play right then. Here we go. Here we go.
Now, a lot of these projects fall under the banner of SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And one of their biggest current projects is Breakthrough Listen, a 10-year project with $100 million of funding that was set up back in 2015 as part of the Breakthrough Foundation. Yep, the same one that funds like the breakthrough prizes in maths, physics, and life science. A lot of the research scientists on the project are based over in Berkeley in California in the US, but the international headquarters for the whole project have just moved to right here in Oxford. And as part of that Breakthrough Listen project, there have been numerous searches for technosignatures, specifically from stars and planets in our own Milky Way galaxy, but sadly to no avail. The problem that these searches have is that the Milky Way has almost 100 billion stars. So monitoring all of them for technosignatures, even the ones that are just visible to us, is practically impossible. The funding for this project pays for the time to use the Green Bank Telescope in West Virginia and the Parkes Observatory in New South Wales in Australia. But even if you had funding for 200 telescopes, not just 2 telescopes, you still wouldn't be able to monitor all of the stars that are visible to us in the night sky in the Milky Way. So there could be some signals that we are missing. Now, Choser and collaborators point out that by searching instead for extragalactic technosignatures, you can observe all of the billions of stars in one galaxy at a single time, meaning that you can cover a much larger area of the universe, billions of stars at once. Now, of course, if you're going to detect any sort of technosignature at those incredible distances between us and even just nearby galaxies at millions to billions of light years away, the signal that you are going to detect has to be incredibly, incredibly energetic and bright, meaning that in these kind of extragalactic technosignature studies, you'll only be able to detect a technosignature from what's known as a Type 2 Kardashev civilization.
All right, and it's great timing with that ad because I am pulling that. So yeah, what do you think of that, Simon? Is that explanation for the breakthrough?
Oh, she's very good. Yeah, Breakthrough Listen, based in Oxford. A couple of things that might not be quite right. I mean, they're not looking for 100 billion stars in our galaxy. I mean, that's the point. They're looking for candidates. If you look at the ones that they are looking for, BLC, Breakthrough Listen Candidate 1 to 5, because they had a tip-off of the 5 most likely. I'm sure they're looking everywhere. But, the Breakthrough Listen guy said to me, there's no real point. There's also a kind of Dan raised this. It's really interesting. I mean, imagine you found a technological signature from somebody that was maybe 10,000 years away. Well, look at us 10,000 years ago. We had a slightly different planet. So I think looking close means that they're also more likely to be in the same time zone as we are technologically. At least we can communicate with them, maybe. So they're not looking for millions. They're looking for candidates. And they've got a really, really interesting filter to look for candidates. They now have the ability to listen with the Green Bank, Parkes, and she also missed out the Square Kilometre Array, which is very important, and a telescope in Africa and in Germany and in Britain. And they are now recording terabytes of nighttime information and taking it away and parsing it and filtering it to look for technological signatures. And they have got criteria that they work through. That's what.
Can I ask a weird question? Is it possible that what we define as a technosignature just turns out to be like nothing? Like that doesn't necessarily mean it's radio. Does that make sense? Like it could just be can a planet give off techno-like signatures that we can use?
Yeah. It could be it could be 2 rocks rubbing together. Yeah. It's making a buzz. Yeah. I know. And aliens are nothing like we expect as well. I mean, they're not. I mean, they're going to be so different. So no, this is a massive problem. Plus, as we've all discussed earlier, the signal is incredibly small. It's in the LIZ, the low information zone. So it might be just interference from Elon Musk's, Starlink.
Wasn't that the WOW signal? Was the WOW signal interference?
Yeah. It was, the WOW signal was so big that and didn't reoccur, that it probably now is thought to be some kind of unknown interference. I mean, but in that clip you showed of Breakthrough Listen, there was my wonderful mentor friend Jocelyn Bell. That was that woman walking up to the stage, getting a breakthrough prize. She discovered pulsars, and it was categorized when she first saw the pulsing. It was written down as LGM, Little Green Men, and it's a great story. And They
Wow.
absolutely thought it was interference. And they contacted every radio station, everybody in that frequency. And it was only because Jocelyn, really smart kitten, went and looked at a different place in the sky and found a second source of a second pulsar, that it wasn't from a single source. And then it became a category. But for a week, they crapped themselves. Men in suits in Cambridge said, it's little green men. Oh, it's like, it wasn't.
I mean,
So
that day's going to come, isn't it?
What is the threshold for making a formal announcement and saying, okay, we've got it?
Yeah.
It's a good point.
I think they're really, really.
Hopefully high.
I think it's higher than we want. I think I would like them to say we've possibly found one, and I think they're not. I think that's what I got from everybody that I talked to, is that they don't. I mean, it's a really bad form as a scientist to say cold fusion. Stop it. Just stop it. Let's get it checked. So I think that's what we're waiting for right now, and the tiny signal, which can be ambiguous, or as you say, Patrick, it's two effing rocks hitting together,
Which would be interesting of itself, like two rocks going at it. But
Right.
what? You know how you get like you go to the doctor, right? And you go see your doctor. You go see your family doctor, and he says, "Oh, hey, listen, I'm sorry to tell you, but you got 6 months to live," right? And then as a normal person, you go, you know what? Let me get a second opinion, right? And maybe a third. Is there a way to get a second opinion for this signal and what they're looking at? Does that make sense? Like, is there a way, something else to confirm it, or
no? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I think people. I'm sorry, I'm really talking too much. I'm sorry about that. Let me just answer, and then I'll shut up.
No.
I think that you can parse the data, you can process the data, multiple people, and I think that's one of the things that probably found the candidates, is by looking at SETI data in a new way. But there's only one, source
instrument.
of the data.
Yeah, one instrument that's collecting the data. But that's good to know that multiple people who have no connection with each other can check this data and see what conclusions they come to.
Oh yeah, checking it. Yeah,
check notes. Yeah. Okay. No, that's good.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And checking
very
other variables of things that could explain that data.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
I feel the threshold should be high. We shouldn't jump the gun. Now, I get the idea of, hey, maybe we possibly found something, making that kind of announcement. I understand, but to be like, no, we're certain there's life here. That mean, it should be the highest threat. Because how do you go back on that, right? Like a few weeks later, you're like, guys, we made a mistake.
Well, let's game that out for a second.
It turned out it was just two rocks.
If it turned out to be, let's just game this out. Like if it turned out to be true, and it's verified by multiple different groups, and they say, okay, yeah, we're confident saying this is there's a biosignature, and then if they get the extra step and they say it's a technosignature, let's just assume that they do. How does that affect us here from a society standpoint? Like how does that make an impact on the wars we're fighting and all of the nuclear weapons?
Dude, we should ask Dan. Right.
I am.
Dan. Yeah. Please. Yeah.
Right? Psychologically, how does society psychologically?
No, I mean, I think it's about threat.
Great question, Clint.
Anxiety, fear is about perceived or real threat, and there's lots of variables associated with that. And one is proximity to that threat, and the fact that it's just a signature and it's so far away. So it's so different than the government disclosing that the phenomenon or something coming to the planet, but discovering that there is technology out there and it's 50 million light years away. Yeah, that will impact us all, and that's some will get very excited. A lot will be very validated, but I don't think that's going to impact us, at least in the same way as they're here, they're in our backyard, and they're coming next week.
Right.
But do you think it would?
That's a good point.
It would cause our leadership globally to take pause and say, you know what? There's another civilization, and they made it. They made it. And we can make it too, but we have to be really, really careful about the next 50 or whatever it is that we're doing right now. We have to disarm all our nuclear weapons. We really need to get our shit together. Do you see that as ever a possibility? What kind of revelation would it take to get people there, or do you think it's possible?
I mean, I think everyone's gonna have an opinion on that, but yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, I think that would be a big revelation. I don't think it would change much in regards to down here on Earth and the conflict. I think we'd need actual visitation, like they are here, and I think they probably take us a lot more seriously, and UFO Twitter more seriously, maybe think, oh shit, maybe those abductions, they could be real, you know.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, that's I think what Clint too you're saying as well, Clint. Like that's what we would hope our leadership would do, right? We would hope they would be impacted by enough to say the things that you said. Now, in reality, would that happen? Who F knows? It could go the complete opposite. They could leverage that against us to take more control.
A great example is
a threat.
When Reagan spoke at the UN and gave that famous speech, and he addressed Gorbachev, and he said, would we could overlook our differences if we were united by some common alien threat or something along those lines. And though the wording is not exactly what we're talking about here, Reagan was known to be a believer, and that part of the push for disarmament was because of that, was the idea that life is precious and there's only one of these planets. We really can't screw it up.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, there's no way to know till it happens. My only issue is what I've seen in the past from leadership, whether it be government leadership or corporate leadership, or they're very much willing to protect power and riches, leverage anything against society or their customers or whatever the thing may be. So I'd probably be a mix. And again, I'm a nobody. I'm just saying this, like, it would be a mix of people leveraging it negatively against society, and then there would be people hopefully who would leverage it in a positive way, like you're saying, trying to bring us together more. Yeah, absolutely. But that is a great question. Like, what would be the next steps? Let's say they announce it, press conference, boom, here it is. We got a technosignature, a biosignature from this planet, this other life. What happens next? Do we just keep checking?
I think at least America wouldn't believe it.
Well, that's a great point.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
That's a great point.
How many, Dan?
I think it could be more than 36.
That. I was actually just trying to think the percentage of evangelical Christians in this country, and none get them, but...
That's a great point. This is
the fun conversation. This is it, right? Like, look, sooner or later it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Someone's going to detect a biosignature, a technosignature, or whatever. And when it happens, things are going to change. They're going to get weird. And, we were talking, I don't want to go there right now, but Dan, you mentioned something about a thing that you had watched and the reaction that you saw. People Diana Pasulka has talked about this. There is UFOs are having their, what did she call it? Their Christianity moment. Belief systems are going to change and things are going to change. That's definitely going to affect us down here on some level. Maybe
more
not
evidence for this than there is for Christianity. There's more evidence for the phenomenon than there is for Christianity.
Sure.
Right.
Well, we have evidence for life on Earth.
Sure.
So it's not such a right to implant life on another planet. Like, we have evidence for the things we're saying could exist, whereas a deity, that the evidence for that is nil, or proof anyway. Some may say evidence exists, but
I'd like to hear your thoughts, Sam, because I can hear the steering in your mind.
On what?
On Simon, just what we're talking about.
Deities. I have a big problem with them, but I think we're
not necessarily deities, but just the response of what would be the response of citizens.
But I think we're living in a very interesting time. I think what we're discussing is how will people react That's an amazing discussion, actually, because I think people are ready to hear this. I think that it will go down really well. There'll be complete disbelief. There'll be some people, jumping off a cliff. I hope not. But I think we're ready now. I think the feedback that I'm getting on social media is that, yep, I think we've reached a tipping point where I think science can actually tell us some big stuff, and the believers will believe it, and the non-believers will not.
Like the Catholics have been getting their ducks in a row for 30 years. Listen to all the statements coming out of the Vatican right now.
Right.
They're talking about
ducks in a row. That's a very good.
Absolutely, they're like ready for this, and I feel like they're going to be the second group to make a statement. It'll be the Vatican Observatory, the Pope.
That's how for 1,000 years they've survived. Sure. And the wealth has grown, and yeah, they got to think ahead like this.
They would have to think ahead. You're right. Exactly right. They've got millions. I mean, maybe
a billion Catholics
to a billion. Right. Yeah. Right. Like across the globe, they've got an entire infrastructure across the globe with this. You're right. They would definitely try to figure out a way to implement it. I also think a lot of it would be kind of to what Dan said earlier, to the point of, well, that threat is so far away. Like at first it may be like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then it becomes, well, what's happening? Nothing. There's nothing happening now, right? Like there's no interruption to my life. Exactly. There's no, I always gauge it by when people say, well, what would happen after disclosure? I always gauge it by interruption. How much does it interrupt the life of someone? That's how much they will respond to it, essentially, at least as a general overview. I realize different culture, races, ethnicities will handle this differently. But I feel like at first it would be jarring and exciting and this, that, but then it would be, well, now what? Like, I've got to just get on with things. That's not an active threat, right? It's like hearing, oh, someone got robbed across town versus someone's breaking into your home at that moment, right? Those are two different. So well, one is you go lock the doors and turn the lights on outside. The other one is I'm in Texas, so you know what I mean. It's a different scenario.
There's people mean different things by disclosure, and it all just depends on what you mean. Like there's government disclosure of classified special access programs and billions of dollars of military spending that was unauthorized with no oversight. That's one kind of disclosure. There's the disclosure of life and biosignatures and technosignatures, the scientific disclosure of we've discovered something else. And then there's like, the idea of a threat is a separate conversation. It's like, okay, well, if they're here, that's different, because if they're here, they're doing something, right? We see it. We have data. There's our Navy battle groups are seeing them. We have sensor data, multiple platforms. Top Gun pilots are reporting this. Like, we know something's going on. So if they're here, they're doing something that could be a threat. How do we respond to someone who's already in the house? And then there's the question of, is there an object coming here, a fleet of alien ships? Which I haven't seen anything to convince me of that. But
no, I haven't either. Don't particularly put anything behind that. One source, an astronomer somewhere, saying that this object is coming. And again, Congress being briefed, I've seen zero evidence of that either. And really what specifically Pavel said is congressional staffers are being briefed. So that's different from Congress. And that could mean a 5-second conversation in the hallway real quick, right? Like, hey, this thing, I don't want to hear about that. Well, they briefed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, look
at Matt Laszlo when he's chasing people down in the hallway, and he's like,
exactly
10 seconds. He's like, hey, what do you think of it?
Yeah,
they're gone.
We don't know what that means and what's happening, behind.
I think people
weight into it.
I think people confuse terms as well. I mean, I'm very in respect, but also slightly suspicious of David Grush in what he heard about the extraterrestrial word. I mean, I don't know if I've got a piece of it here, but I mean, you can have a piece of extraterrestrial stuff in your house. I mean, it just means it's not from Earth. I mean, he could have easily. So in this object coming towards us might actually be misreported. It might be that they're being briefed about some technological signature I think the two are maybe muddled up.
That's a great point.
Well, look at
that's
Oumuamua.
a good point.
Oumuamua sailed right through the solar system, and they didn't really know what it was until after it left. It was already gone, and that was here. So if you think about something coming,
that was increasing, decreasing speed, doing some funky shit like this thing is.
We need to get Avi Loeb in this conversation. We need to find out what's going on.
Sure. I mean, he makes some very good points. The latest data on Oumuamua is that it possibly was a dark comet, which I think is very interesting. And there's new stuff coming out. It was actually tragic when Oumuamua was first spotted by Pan-STARRS, the team I've worked with in Hawaii. By the time that they actually could get any contact or visual or any radar, what they really wanted to visualize it, it was already 4 days past Earth towards the sun. And it was the very effing weekend that Arecibo broke. So they were relying on...
I think you mean it was sabotaged, Simon.
It's a big coincidence, Clint. Yeah.
Things that make you say,
Yeah, but whatever. I mean, and that was such an important object. It's great. Yeah.
Simon, let me ask you a question as a fellow Brit, if I may, Patrick. So, I know you're in France, but when I went back to the UK recently, and whether I was in my small Cotswold village pub or I was in, St. John's Wood pub in London, two places I know very well.
Me too.
No one talks about the phenomenon. No one knew about New York Times article. David Grush, who? David Carradine.
Right. Yeah.
98% of the world have no idea what we are talking about.
David Carradine.
David Carradine. Yeah, that's right.
Is that what he said? That's hilarious, Dan. That's funny.
That's brilliant. No, it's right. I mean, I've been knocking on for years about Rendlesham Forest, and people, which is in Suffolk, obviously, and people aren't really interested even in that. And certainly things like the Condine report, which was which was released in 2015. Thank you, thank you, people who did that. Actually says UAP are real, according to the UK government, and it's not. People aren't very interested in it, and they're certainly not interested in the in Congress and the debate. No.
To be fair, though, the United States,
UAP aren't real because they know that unidentified just means we can't identify it. The kind of Midwest.
Is it? Dan, are you saying they have access to this information, just no one cares, or they're not seeing it? It just doesn't come across their radar.
I think most, they don't even have access to the information.
They don't. No, it's not in.
It's not being reported on.
No, it's not being reported.
Social media. No, it's not in the Daily Mail. It's not. I mean, the Daily Mail, if they do anything, are still doing kind of silly flying saucer stories.
God.
They're aluminum craft and weird stuff, but I mean they're not taking it sensibly. And Britain, Dan will know this. Britain, for somebody who used to work on Tomorrow's World and Horizon and things like that, we're not doing good science TV anymore, and there's very little apart from big, flagship. Very good, Brian Cox series or whatever. I mean, there's very little science on TV these days. So why would anybody know? Let's keep the peasants in the dark. Let's be the magicians.
I had those Daily Mail articles that we see them, right, and they're almost designed for an American audience. Because when I was in the UK, I actually looked, or someone told me that the paper editions, they don't put those articles in the papers, printed papers. That there's an
no, they don't.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they're more interested in ex-TV stars on desert islands and things like that. Yeah, no,
Love Island. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm convinced that the United States as a country is one gigantic psyop on everybody who lives here. And I feel like everything that happens here happens in a weird bubble. And the rest of the world must look at us like we are just insane. I don't know how. I hear this from people, night shift viewers who talk about in Germany and Spain. Same thing. They don't hear anything about any of this.
Right.
Doesn't ever come across their radar. They only see it if they look for it on YouTube or online, and even then,
Yeah.
it's not as easy. It's just so strange.
Here
Makes you
in
wonder.
France, it's slightly different. I mean, I was very cheered up to move to France, and suddenly French people talk about OVNI, French word for unknown aerial vehicles, and every report you can report it to the local gendarmerie, to the police, to the military. I don't know who you tell, and it's taken seriously, and it's public. And it uses Jacques Vallée category systems, and there's maps of France with little dots. It's much more open than, Britain. Oh God, what are they playing at? Because UAP are going to be global. It drives me bonkers to say, there's only a UFO in a farmer's field in Wisconsin. You're going to get one in Namibia. You're going to get one in Queensland, and you're going to get one in Cheltenham, aren't you? I mean, you should.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. Look, guys, I want to. I got a couple other topics that I'd like to cover before we get to the Q&A at the end. For people watching that can send in some questions for all of us. So please put your questions in. If you do, yeah, yeah, we got a couple people watching right now. Put your super chats in or your questions in all caps. We'll get to them there at the end, or save them for then. But one thing in particular that kind of just dropped. And it's all related here, what we're talking about. But I'm going to play a clip real quick from Twitter, of all places. Now, this is about it's an old show with a new season coming out, and the show is called Unsolved Mysteries for American audiences. It's a flagship show from the 90s, but it has been rebooted by Netflix, and they've done great episodes on all kinds of different things. And they have a new episode out about Roswell. Okay. And apparently there's some new information out about Roswell released in this episode. So I'm going to play a 1-minute clip and then we'll kind of talk about it. So this is everyone's first time seeing this except for me. I saw it already. Okay, here we go, guys.
The effort expended to recover the material does not make any sense. If it was just a weather balloon, why was there the need for the security in the first place? From that point on, the evolution of the case is very complex.
Yeah.
The debris field was just metallic debris. So there had been a search for an impact site where the craft itself supposedly came down.
Witnesses told us that back in 1947, a team of archaeologists from Western Texas Tech came upon this pod, this egg-shaped craft about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. So this particular site is separated by about 27 miles, going east-southeast from the debris field. We believe this was the final impact point. And then we learned they discovered bodies, and they were not human.
When you start talking about some kind of a craft and bodies, well, then you've elevated the level of importance.
The government has wreckage and alien bodies?
Alien bodies, yes.
You say that so seriously? And
it's because it's absolutely true.
Yowzas. Yeah. So look, apparently what the deal is that they've revealed exactly where the crash site and debris field are. And I guess that was sort of new information that had been, out before, but I don't know. I find it very interesting, that case. It keeps coming up. People keep talking about it, specifically, Luis Elizondo in his book. He actually states something a little different from what was just stated there, right? He was told that Hal Puthoff told him that there was 2 craft at Roswell and one got away and the other did not, and we recovered the bodies. I'm curious, just what are y'all's overall thoughts on Roswell and what you think of that? I don't know. Anybody?
I think it's interesting that we keep bringing Roswell up.
Yeah,
honestly,
sure.
such old news. This thing has been deader than a doornail for 50 years. Like, there is no movement on this story. The real action is what is going on with our military budget. It is off the chain. We're spending $1 trillion a year on this military. We don't even know where it's going. And there are people, whistleblowers, telling us that there are super classified, very expensive programs that are just sucking money, taxpayer dollars, out of this country. And we don't know anything about them. So I'm way more interested in, I understand unsolved mystery. I love unsolved mysteries. I understand there's so many other cases that are way more interesting. Like, they could have picked any abduction case. They could have picked anything out of John Mack's entire body of work. It's just weird that they keep bringing, and when they bring Roswell up, I noticed this like weird holdover from years ago. They always make it look a little cheesy. It's always just kind of like a rubbery little alien over in a bush. And it just feels like, I don't know. It feels like they're trying to like say something about it and ride this wave that it's the UFO wave right now, but without actually breaking any new ground or making any interesting.
I want to push back, but I want to push back on you, Clint. But I want to have Simon and Dan go first, get their thoughts.
Just quickly, I'm not a big Roswell fan. I mean, I think they said something very interesting, just physics-wise, in that clip. They said, you know, there was pieces of metal scattered over a debris field. Well, how would that work? You know, if it was coming from space, there would be a effing big hole, wouldn't there? Or unless it was a craft that was flying. And what I keep hearing about Roswell is that it was a classic case of using UFOs to cover something else up. I mean, I think it's kind of almost a double blind. I think the real truth of what actually they found has never been told, and I think that, as you said, Clint, I think the cheesiness of it is revealing that there's actually another layer to Roswell. That's what I think.
Okay, Dan, what do you think?
I mean, it was such a sensitive time in history, right? I mean, Cold War had started, and I think misinformation, a lot of fear. I actually had a conversation with this guy in an airport about a year ago, and he had a relative who worked for the newspaper, who passed away. But his version, his story was that paper was financially struggling, that it sort of saved them, and then told me he was into the history of like how sort of finances impact the selection of stories of small town newspapers. Small. It's not as exciting as the next. Of course, the next day story changed. But could you fault a newspaper for wanting to? God, this is a crazy story. Let's get it out there without vetting it.
Yeah.
So I didn't believe it, to be honest.
That's interesting.
That's a great point.
One of the stories, one of their accounts that I kind of believe.
Yeah. All right. Let me just push back a little bit here on everybody. I find it to be the most compelling UFO case ever, in my opinion. But I also think Die Hard is the greatest movie ever made. So take that
it is,
as you will. So that's my level of taste that you're working with, right? So
right.
And it's subjective, like music or anything. I find it to be so compelling because of the dismissal of it, because of the cheesiness that it's attributed, because of different things like what Simon said, even what Dan said, right? This paper, which I've heard about happening at a famous case in Texas, in Stephenville, the same thing with that newspaper and them wanting to cover that story for financial, right? Like I've heard that before, that idea, but it's all the different layers. I mean, I live near Dallas and JFK was shot here, right? Like that conspiracy is enticing to me no matter what, is even if it's looked at a bazillion times. And I think it's regardless of what the actual truth of Roswell is, I feel like it's at the center of the UFO topic, whether we like it or not, in my opinion, right? And I think it's worth sort of just keeping there, new people saying they're coming out with new information. I have no problem looking into the past to help us understand our present. And I think that's actually kind of important. There's a lot of evidence. I'm not saying it's anything. I don't know. People know I'm very skeptical about all of it, period, regardless of Roswell. But I just find it very compelling. The last thing I'll say is that, you know, I'm not endorsing the validity of anything, but Ron James, documentary filmmaker who I've had on the show, who most recently brought the alien implant exclusive stuff that I showed on here. He has a new documentary that's coming out with the gentleman Toby from the Roswell Daily Record there in Roswell, about new materials potentially that have been found. But you know, I don't know, right? There's new stuff coming out, but I respect everyone's opinion on it. I get it. I think it's very subjective, and there's a lot of cases out there, and I get it.
I think that I'm not saying that nothing happened and that it's not important. No. I want to be clear. What I'm saying is that what happened, more at least what I believe, I take Corso at his word. What happened was they recovered a bunch of stuff, and then they doled it out to IBM, Texas Instruments, EG&G, a bunch of other companies all got bits and pieces of it. And if you really want to solve Roswell, that's where you're going to solve Roswell. It's not going to be going back to the town and, you know, combing the desert. It's going to be it's going to be in a courtroom, and it's going to be a bunch of attorneys. That's where it's going to get solved.
Have y'all heard Annie Jacobson's theory of what she says happened at Roswell?
No,
it's a weird one.
It's nuts. So she basically said that she was told, right, in a big book that she wrote, she was told that, okay, Roswell was a faked UFO crash from the Russians, and that Russia had basically surgically altered mentally handicapped people, right? Ooh. People with Down syndrome, surgically altered them to make them look like aliens, put them in this UFO type craft, remote controlled it from Russia or maybe nearby to crash in the desert and just sort of mess with Americans and get them caught up in that and whatever. And I thought, wow, that's the crazy. Wait a second.
That's harder to believe than aliens.
Yeah, that's harder to believe. We got a remote controlled flying drone back in the 40s, and there's some fireworks, y'all, to just let y'all know how serious I am about this. So I just thought, wow.
And are we that dumb that our medical people couldn't figure that out? Like that these are just people.
I agree. I agree.
When you autopsy them and you open them up and it's all human organs inside, and it's like, oh, well,
sure.
But the Russians did do as I said, the Russians did a fantastic coup against the Americans that is actually real. Before Apollo 11, they actually sent a spacecraft to the moon with cosmonauts on board. And and they were talking, and everybody was listening to them going, "Oh, we're leaving orbit. We're going to the moon," in Russian. And it turned out that the spacecraft had 2 tortoises inside it, and there were 2 cosmonauts in Moscow sending a signal up to the capsule, and then it was being retransmitted to America. So they were into that's a true, and these tortoises went around the moon. They were the first creatures. It's a good pub quiz, Dan, question. They were actually, they went around, and they came back and they safely landed, and then somebody ate them. No, I don't know what happened to them, but but the Russians pretended that there were people on board the ship because they didn't have anybody.
That's brilliant.
So they sent 2 turtles up? Like, what the? That's
you know what?
Craziest thing.
You know what? It's also possible. It's also possible. I don't know. I'm sure someone else has thought of this. I'm not the first one, but it's possible that we cooked up the Roswell story, faked it, made it look like there was a crash, then tried to purposely retract it so that it would look like we were doing a really shitty job of covering it up.
That's interesting.
So that the Soviets think, whoa, the Americans are sitting on alien technology. We better...
That's
who knows? There's a lot of benefits to them not.
Oh, definitely. That's a good one. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard that before, Clint. That's interesting. That theory. That's interesting for sure.
Well,
regardless, something happened, right? Something occurred. It could be innocuous. It could be extraordinary, but something happened that day.
Sure.
Which is interesting to in and of itself. So look, okay, that was interesting. I got one more thing before we go over. This will be a great, speaking about what Clint was talking about earlier, right? What's happening now, currently, right? With the secret government cover-ups and misspent appropriation of funds and defense and, reverse engineering, UFOs crashed. Well, filmmaker James Fox has a brand new documentary coming out entitled The Program. And the trailer just got released. It's supposed to be very timely, present day, exactly what we're talking about. And James is normally focused on the past, things that have happened in the past and covered cases like that. And this is something that's currently happening, right? So I'm going to play the trailer for the documentary, and then let's just talk a little bit about it before we jump into some questions. So let me bring it up here.
2017, the New York Times published a story exposing a secret government program investigating UFOs.
That story was kind of a catalyst for a lot of things that have happened since. Members of Congress started to ask questions.
Instruments report there is something there.
There are flight characteristics that we can't explain.
UAPs are unexplained. It's true. They need to be investigated.
Here we are having a hearing where just a few years ago, we didn't even acknowledge that these things were real.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
You're telling me people have come forward claiming firsthand knowledge of craft of non-human origin?
That's correct. We have sources who have asserted not only that there have been crashes, but there have been crash retrievals.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they human or non-human?
Non-human.
I'm sitting here today because the American people are being lied to.
We are the American government, and we are open, and we're going to be open about this.
What has been revealed:
non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity.
Is only part of the story.
The pressure's on. The Pentagon, the CIA, they're going to have to answer the mail.
Some are risking everything.
Have you had incidences that have caused you to be in fear for your life?
Yes, personally.
To uncover the rest.
What is being done to verify the assertion that the U.S. government has spaceships of non-human intelligence in their possession?
That kind of revelation unearths people's beliefs.
I would go to jail to say things that I've been exposed to in the program.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, real quick, as a disclaimer, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, Dan, but I know that you've seen the movie. So I don't know. What are you allowed to say?
So I didn't see the whole movie. I just saw segments. A lot more than a preview. I just saw like big chunks of it. He would have showed it to me, but he had him and his wife were going somewhere, so But I will say from the preview, it's a great preview. I think when we watch that, we might think we all know that, right? We've seen all that. There's a lot in it that I had not heard of, seen. It's going to be good. I mean, it's been very hard not to share some of the clips that I saw. I can tell you that.
I can imagine.
I told my wife, but she doesn't give a shit. So
yeah.
Quite.
She's like, great. Is there gas in the generator? And you're like, but wait, exactly. I'm trying to tell you this important thing. Do the dishes. Yeah, just do the dishes. No, that's exciting. And I've heard the same thing.
There's people that I knew the names of, but never seen any interviews of. There's more content with Hal Puthoff, which is really great.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Hal Puthoff is pretty much, he knows, I think, the most amount out of anyone.
Yeah,
I did ask James. I was at his beautiful place in Vermont, and I remember asking. We were in his studio, and he's got. I mean, it looks like it's like a war room in many ways. So it's like when you see the FBI and they're connecting all these things with strings.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's super cool, and you may have been there. But I said, "What was the best evidence you have?" And he said he had to think about it. He was like, and I'm thinking he's going to think of like some video, right? And he said, "Hal Puthoff." It's like the best evidence I have of the phenomenon existing is Hal Puthoff.
Totally.
So
interesting.
And I think that he was very smart to use that title and what Hal actually said. I'm hearing from Jack Sarfati's email group, and Hal Puthoff is in it, and Eric Davis and everybody. Not that they like each other, but that's the second thing. There is Hal's use of the word the program. I think Clint. I think that exists. I mean, there is an enormous funding going on right now, and there has been for many years. And I think calling it the program is what is actually going on. Retro engineering the unknown because they want a physics advantage for warfare.
Does that mean that he's implying there's only one program, not programs?
I think there's lots of people working on it in different laboratories and different defense contractors, and lots of money, and possibly globally. But I think it was a bit of a giveaway. I think the word "the program," it was a very smart title. For my eye here, that's almost the word.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. No, I heard for people that, and Dan kind of maybe is saying it's something a little bit different, which is interesting. Like I heard, if you're really deep into this topic, you may know a lot of the stuff that's said, and clearly there's some new stuff, but it's mainly intended for people outside the UFO community to sort of give them an overview of what everyone's been saying on Twitter for years, right? And kind of talking about this particular story, right? Government cover-up of a reverse engineering and crash retrieval program, not Roswell, not this event, this particular aspect, which
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Clint, I mean, what do you say to this statement that there's UAP out there that we want confirmation of, but what the whole UAP thing is really about is government and militarization. It's an enormous defense contractor government. The program is all about money, and it's about SAP programs. It's not about what is a UAP. They want to know because they are monetizing it. They are weaponizing it.
I think they already know. I think they know more than they let on. And I think that what we know is very, very little. And the problem is that for them, the problem is that this system is too unstable to maintain forever. Sooner or later, it expires. There's just going to be something that happens on a long enough timeline where somebody else does something first, the Chinese do something, or somebody has the technology and they use it.
Or they use it. Mm-hmm.
Or it's going to fall apart from the inside as enough of the cross-pollination. I mean, think about the footprint of a research project of this scope and scale. Thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands probably, globally, all working on the same project. Sooner or later, those people leave, they go to other places, they take their knowledge with them. And that cross-pollination, as they start new companies and change things, who knows how much crossover there is. But I think ultimately, the program is the most important conversation to be having right now because there's a paper trail, probably an enormous one. And if we just look at it, we found out the most exciting thing that we found out, or probably the most terrifying thing we've learned in the last year or two, is how no one in Congress has any idea about any of this. They are just now getting up to speed.
Sure.
And it's crazy. You think about when this thing hits, I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on Congress to start asking more questions and be more involved in this. I know that they have been, but you're going to have to start getting some answers.
Yeah,
I totally envision or believe that it's a group of whatever it is, 5-6 people in power, whether it's a Dick Cheney that, Patrick, you put up on the show and others have, that, they're not just in office for 4 or 8 years. They, it's like there's a succession process of that role and that information. And it's been going on for, 80 years.
I bet most of those people, Clint,
yeah.
don't know what they're working on. That's why they're able to stovepipe it, as they say, and compartmentalize it to where
yeah.
they don't really know what they're working on, yet they're a part of the program, right? They have zero clue that it leads to XYZ.
But even
they may
even
think it's
something
classified or whatever, but
even something as simple as a crash retrieval, right? Like, not simple, but I say that it's a contained event, right? A crash retrieval operation.
Simple.
A crash retrieval operation, however many there have been, would require a team of hundreds of people, pilots, gigantic aircraft, multiple different agencies all working together, especially if that crash retrieval happens in another country. And we have plenty of reports of that. So where they bring in Americans and who's the guy from Peru? I always forget his name. Lance Corporal Weygand, John Weygand.
Oh,
he
Weygand.
said it was Department of Energy guys that showed up. And it was like hundreds of people with like C-130 Hercules aircraft and stuff. So my question is, why can't we get access to that information? How, they can't classify every single thing. Sooner or later, there's a big enough footprint. There must be some spillover.
The Department of Energy is the biggest clue. Ever since Trinity, ever since Manhattan Project, anything with energy, the word energy, whatever type of energy in the United States, doesn't go to the Pentagon, doesn't go to the Department of Defense. It all goes to the Department of Energy. So things like aerogel drones or anything nuclear or anything exotic propulsion is all in Department of Energy. We're looking in the wrong place.
And another question is, if the government does the recovery and retrieval and then hands that information or that technology to a private corporation, taxpayer money paid for the recovery, but once it goes to the private corporation, if it's corporate money being spent on researching that stuff, then don't the shareholders have a legal right to know what their company is doing with this technology? And doesn't that create a really sticky situation for these companies if their shareholders start asking questions like, what do we have? What are we actually working on? How does
that's like the shareholders of Apple asking, hey, what's going on? They go, we're not telling you.
I'm not talking like you and me own 20 shares of Apple. I'm talking about people who own 30 million
shareholders.
Sure.
I mean, but there's also going to be regular crash retrieval programs, right?
That's what I was going to bring up, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah,
there are.
So are we talking about these different ones for sort of UAP type craft, or are these, we've got a lot of experimental drones and aircrafts and they crash on our soil, on other people's soils, and we retrieve them, right? Is it different?
Well, there's crash retrieval.
That's my question.
If you remember, Dan, in Woodbridge in Suffolk, there was European North Atlantic crash retrieval. They were flying what we used to call Jolly Green Giant helicopters, and their job was space recovery. I mean, so there's crash retrieval in loads of countries, and it's initially done by the Air Force, but as Clint says, I mean, it's handed over immediately. What they retrieved at Rendlesham went immediately somewhere unknown. It was no longer the U.S. Air Force who actually took the things that were on the ground, but they did the crash recovery. So,
no, that's always been my question. Is that I know that crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs exist, but for foreign technology, meaning from other countries, and that's the question I've always had that Dan asked, is it just, Monday through Saturday, they're foreign material, on Sundays they get UFOs, right? Like, is it the same program that's going out on these, unknown origin missions of UFOs, or it's a separate program entirely?
Well,
only dedicated
and
to
at
that?
this stage of the game, do we have private? Does Lockheed have their own recovery team in-house?
Correct. I believe yes. I think yes.
And then the government can go completely hands off, and the military can say, "We don't know."
Sure.
Air Force can be like, "Oh."
Well, that's why you compartmentalize and stovepipe, right? Because I don't know anything. It's easier to deny if you actually don't know, right? If you're literally left in the dark, it's easy to say I have nothing to do with it. I don't know. yeah, I mean, it's fascinating.
And
for
freedom
sure.
of information. Freedom of information does not extend to defense contractors. I mean, that's what.
Correct.
Dan will know this. When Tony Blair went over to Washington and said, "I would like to introduce freedom of information into the United Kingdom," they said, "Yeah, but make sure you move your flying saucer." Make sure you move your effing flying saucer to BAE Systems, because your public can't ask them because it's a company. And that's what happened in the FOI in the US. So hiding behind defense contractors is smart.
By the way, this is just a fun fact, but the trailer for the program, all of James Fox's trailers are narrated by Peter Coyote, who's not only a great actor but a great voice talent. And he
listen to you, Coyote. Vamos, no,
yeah, man, I know what's up.
I like it. Me encanta.
He was in a book or a movie based on Michael Crichton's Sphere novel, and that movie Sphere. Remember Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone, Sam Jackson, Lee Schreiber.
Sphere. Right.
They go to the bottom of the ocean to retrieve what they believe is an alien craft, and they learn something.
And Michael Crichton knows what he's talking about.
That's
I think it's
very.
Yeah.
Well, maybe because Peter is a believer in the phenomenon. So, but he was a narrator of another sort of well-known documentary, not on this topic, by the most famous American documentary filmmaker. Who am I thinking of? It was like on the Gettysburg or
the guy who does all the Civil
Ken
War.
Adams, or what's his name? Not
Ken
Adams.
Adams, yeah, something like that.
You know what I
Ken
know
Burns.
what you're talking about. Ken Burns.
And that, so everyone heard his voice, and it comes with a lot of legitimacy, right? And then when I hear it in the phenomenon, which really got me hooked.
Clever.
Yeah, hear that voice. It must be true.
And in that story,
that's interesting.
In Sphere, they bring in a mathematician, a physicist, a psychologist, I think a medical doctor, and Coyote is the guy in charge of this whole team, and he's just so good in it. It actually holds up better than people give it credit for. It's a good movie.
Oh, it's a great
movie.
Yeah,
it's a great movie. Like The Abyss too. I love The Abyss for the same reason. The Abyss is phenomenal. Yeah, no, those are all great points, guys. What do y'all see? Before we go to some better questions here, what do y'all see as the impact? What could the impact be from a film like James Fox's The Program? Like, what kind of impact do you think it could actually have?
Yeah.
I think it's going to onboard a lot of people who may have been on the fence. A lot of casual people who have kind of maybe been watching this a little bit, or they're kind of aware of it, but they haven't really taken it serious. I think a lot of spouses are going to show their significant other, like, you need to watch this. Sit down. And I think in that way, it's gonna bring new people into the fold, and that could be a really positive thing.
Yeah.
Well said.
I'd have to see it.
Fair.
There might be things in it that I really don't like, but he's a very good filmmaker, and the trailer is fantastic. And Hal Puthoff is the man. So good.
Is it a documentary on Hal Puthoff?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
documentaries have been known to make significant impacts in the industry that it's about, right? So clearly there are examples. What's that one with the whales and SeaWorld and all that?
Sure.
I forget what that was called. Icarus.
Free Willy.
Free Willy. Free Willy behind the scenes.
Right.
Super Size Me. McDonald's got rid of the Super Size because of Morgan Spurlock.
Sure.
Exactly.
Sure.
Sure. Exactly. Right.
He almost died.
One about the drug. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he did.
I wanted to do I pitched to a documentary film group to do a reboot of Super Size Me in this day and age, and to see how much it's changed since whatever, and like do it again. And you know what I mean? And actually do it with two different people, to have two different.
That's a cool idea.
But it got turned down. Then they were like, "That's the dumbest idea I ever heard." I was like, "Really? I thought it was fucking awesome idea, but whatever."
Dan,
it's a good idea.
Dan, you couldn't do Super Size Me anymore in the United Kingdom because it's too effing expensive.
Oh, is that right? It was like a 30-minute drive to go to a McDonald's. We didn't even. It was in Swindon somewhere. We didn't want to go there.
Yeah, Big Mac and chips in London's 20 quid.
Is that right?
Jesus.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's like anyway.
It's getting expensive here too. Like it's beyond the pale of what something that
Excuse me 1 second, guys. I gotta run for 1 second and open the door. I'll be right back.
Please. You're fine.
I want to mention something about those documentaries, though, because I know, Patrick, you're a big fan of Moment of Contact. The Phenomenon is probably my favorite because that's where I discovered about, the Zimbabwe case. The Ruhr case, the school case, Ariel School.
Yeah.
And a lot of others. And then I think this will be good for people to learn about everything that's been going on in the government. David Grush to, ATIP to all that stuff that they don't know. So if they can watch that, then I'd like them to go to the Phenomenon, then Moment of Contact. It's got to be kind of in that order. They can't start.
Oh, that's
with
interesting.
Contact,
sure. That's a great point, actually. Like a playlist of how for sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Michael Moore documentary too.
The Phenomenon to skeptics, and they'll be like, "Wow, gosh, that's hard." There's this scene in the Phenomenon when at the Ariel School, it's a 6-year-old kid who's crying and being interviewed, and what's his name, psychiatrist? John Mack asked her, "So what did it sound? What did you hear?" And she said, crying, it sounded kind of like a flute, she's really figuring it out, and which is a sound that I think we can associate with the Phenomenon because we've heard that before somewhere, but she hadn't, right? It was. I find that such a believable story and account, and I don't know what you guys think, but.
No, it's a fascinating account.
No, it's a really fascinating case.
Daylight, right? Yeah, it's one of the most fascinating. Period. I agree. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm with you. Those again, these documentaries can make an impact in a great way. We'll see. That I like that playlist though, Dan, of that order. Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I think that's exactly how somebody should do it. And let's see. Let's hope that it gets out there, and clearly people are going to watch it and share it, and
Good.
we'll see what it does. And all right, guys, let's get to some questions from the bettors. All these people that have been watching us this entire time. We got 1,412 currently watching us. So thank you all so much. Thank you to all the mods who have been running the chat the entire time. Allie, Justin, Jess, Chris, Brookers, Daniel, Heiser. Thank you guys so much for rocking. Yeah. All right, let me just throw up a few things here. Thank you, UF Joe, for gifting some memberships. This is from Jerry to Simon here. It says, Simon, how massive would an object entering our heliosphere / solar system need to be in order to alter the stable gravitational orbits of various objects? Wait a second, Jerry. Why didn't you ask me that? Why didn't I? I'm just kidding. Of course, Simon, take it away.
Good one, Jerry. I think that's a great question. I think it would have to be very massive. But you have to remember how we found our more distant planets. Like we found Neptune because Uranus was perturbed by something way, way far away. So anything entering, as you say, our heliosphere or our outer solar system will have an effect. Chaos theory, butterflies' wings. I think to an extent, we don't really want something really big in our backyard. Thank you.
Yeah. Well said, Simon. I love it. Legend says, Pat, you rock too, Legend. Thank you so much. So which team you think will win tonight, Atlanta or Tampa Bay? And who do you want to win on the Sunday London game? New Jersey Jets or Tampa Bay? Thanks. Right. We're going to switch it up, a little American football here. I don't know who's playing, so I can't speak to that. I don't know. Do y'all know anything about any football, American football going on?
Sorry.
I got a fantasy team, but I don't pay attention. I still don't pay attention.
I'm bad.
Which is probably why I'm 0-4. because I don't pay attention. But let's just pick Atlanta. That interestingly enough, there's been a lot of American football games being played in London and different parts of the world during the season, which typically used to be preseason, and now they're doing it. Yeah, now they're doing it pretty regularly throughout the season. Because if you think about it, that's a huge flight to take in the middle of the week to go right to Europe, jet lag, whatever, play, then come back. Like American football isn't built like that. To travel, you're traveling within the continental United States typically. So anyway, but thank you, Legend. Earthman says the Nazca Tridactyl Maria is real. Peru will be releasing a statement confirming it is genuine, no modifications. Wake up, they say. What do you guys think of the Nazca mummies?
I think if it is real. Yeah, I think it's just easy to solve. I mean, it's a bit like extraterrestrial material, arts parts and anything that people have found. If the Nazca mummies are real, we can instantly tell, if they're human or if they're not. So let's just get the facts.
Sure.
Yeah, I would want it sent over to the US, and I'd want some other, you want researchers from different universities to do that analysis. But yeah, I'm open to it being real.
Totally open if it is real, but I mean, it's so.
But you're not going to believe a Peru statement. I'm not, at least necessarily. Nothing against Peru, but
no, nothing against Peru. But yeah, they need to actually show that it's not human.
Second opinion, right? Second confirmation over here, right? Then it becomes, Peru said it. They said it. This university said this. Then it becomes more.
I'm happy with Peru saying it. But they need to say it. They have to just go. Sure. It's human DNA. It's from the planet Zog. I mean, you can't say it's pretty simple. It's either is or isn't. Anybody.
But Simon, I bet when big discoveries at Oxford, Cambridge, and Princeton and Harvard, they were replicating it and to make sure.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, good, yeah. Oh, if they think it's real, then please share it. If it's not real, go away.
Yeah, bugger off.
Yeah, I agree. Costas Khan, thank you so much. Loved Professor Simon's research about the Calvine UAP case. Do we know if any new evidence has come out supporting the radar defense system theory? I don't know anything about this. I know about Calvine, but not this radar defense system theory. I don't know.
Well, it's a reflecting rock in a lake. No, very quickly, the date and time was very. It occurred a day after that Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. It's half an hour flight time from British Aerospace in Wharton, and somebody at Wharton said it looks like something they built, and it was a radar defense thing. Of course, they're not going to confirm it, but it may. If it is military, it probably came from BAE, and it was something to do with high altitude observation or radar in the Middle East, or it was a rock in a lake.
When you see James Fox's documentary, The Program, you may think you might have a different theory, an opposing theory, or you might believe it. Maybe not.
Yeah, I've been waiting. I know James has been doing Calvin, and I've been asking him about it, and I've never heard back from him because I thought he was doing a separate film. But
he's got an interview with this guy in the film. I saw a clip of it.
Oh yeah, he's great. I mean, he's the MOD man who kept the photograph. Oh no, but what?
Craig Lindsay.
But what is the object? That's all I'm interested in. David Clark and people are interested in the photographers, which is very interesting. But I want to know what that weird thing is in the middle of the screen. And one of the clues is whose is that aircraft? And I'd love to see. I'm looking forward to seeing the film. Good.
Yeah, me too. The story about there was supposedly these two hikers were sort of they were cooks that worked at this particular hotel or whatever, and one of the guys that worked with them also came out and was talking about them, you know, and how weird that was. So yeah, I'm looking forward to James Fox's documentary, because he is going to be covering this, so that should be that should be fascinating. But that's the famous picture, y'all. Calvine, I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more gift of membership. Okay, we got, oh my God, we got so many messages. This is, oh my good God, y'all. Okay, oh, holy cow. All right, I'm just gonna, go here. Ben says, can someone please tell Simon to do a talk on the Baltic Sea UFO?
Yeah, great. Ben. Yeah, I mean, I've seen pictures of it, and I've never. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Thank you, Ben. That's all I'll say. I'll look into it. I'd love to.
Sure. What is the Baltic Sea UFO? Have you heard of it or no?
It's an object in the bottom of the Baltic Sea, which is looks man-made. I think I'm turning into an alien.
Oh, I saw that. What?
It's good. I am the Baltic UFO. Oh,
I've never seen that before.
I could be Harry Worth.
Yeah. Oh man, that is crazy. I've never seen a camera do that in my life.
No, nor have I.
Right? That is so interesting. I don't know what to do, Simon. How do I fix that?
I will go away and come back.
Let's try that. Let's see if that works. Oh goodness gracious. That is here, let me try this. Nope, that didn't help. All right, yeah, he'll come back here. All right, so it says random. We'll just keep it quiet. Just go. So in summary, how likely do you all feel that the objects, planets, are non-human in nature, have extraterrestrial life on it? I guess we're either that object that Pablo was talking about or the signature that Simon is talking about. How likely do y'all think these are ET? I guess let's put it that way.
I mean, if it's a biosignature, there's life. If it's a technosignature, it's intelligent life. Depending on what we find out, it all depends. It's still kind of remains to be seen. As far as the signal, if there's a signal, then there's technological life and it's trying to communicate. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah. I guess there's just no way to know, right?
It's amazing that we have this James Webb Telescope. It's phenomenal. But could you imagine what someone 1,000 years ahead of us or 1,000,000 years has? Maybe they have orbs that float around and can listen and support or whatever. I don't know.
Sure. It's kind of just unfathomable, right? What's the theory that's out there? It's like answers are easy if you have the right questions to ask. Right, the answer becomes easy, and that's the thing. We just don't even know what questions to ask. Specifically. I mean, in a general sense, what technologies would they have? Well, but specifically, right? If we were to ask, so yeah, I'm with you. It's crazy to think about. Anonymous Coward. Okay, interesting name. All right, you're back, Simon. It worked.
Yeah, technology.
All right, perfect in time for this great question here from Anonymous Coward. Says, have you heard that the UFOs seen are alien drone probes sent ahead of arrival of aliens in their mothership, and all current human tech was taken from crashed UFO, including artificial intelligence? What do you think?
I've heard something like that.
I haven't.
I've heard, I'm doing a deep dive right now on this Forgotten Languages website, which is its own rabbit hole that is. I found an interview with the creator, and I was going through it, and when there's a lot of really bizarre, weird coded text on this website that talks about, some of it talks about an object that is in our solar system that is some kind of a almost like a drone, almost like a satellite that sort of observes us and signals back to somewhere else if it detects technology. And there was this whole write-up on it, and it was very intriguing. And I read it, and it was probably 2 pages long. And like, man, there's so much detail here. There's people have talked about it for a long time. It's possible. I think
there's definitely a theory that aliens. I mean, that's one of the things I have a bit of a problem with flying saucers. Is that I mean, why don't you just have a probe on the moon or circling the sun? You know, a decent person. Alien technology looking at Earth doesn't have to be in our atmosphere. You know, I think it's quite likely that there are maybe probes, alien probes, that are looking at lots and lots of different emergent civilizations throughout the universe, and maybe as you say, that there's a trigger point that when we reach, say, an AI level or we become deep space travelers, they do something. You know, that's what's slightly worrying.
There was another paper on this same site, just to your point, Simon, about this was also very interesting. And it was about the value calculation of contacting a civilization that doesn't have a very long lifespan. Like if they determine that a civilization is going to extinguish itself, the danger of actually making contact with that civilization outweighs the potential benefit. So they won't make contact. This is a paper hypothesizing about this. I don't know where it comes from. I just know that I found it here. But it was saying there's too much of a risk, so they just don't bother, and you wouldn't hear. So maybe they're watching us to see if we wipe ourselves out.
Yeah, but if they have the ability to get to us, they have the ability to ID us or find us. It's my theory.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to matter if we're out there or from here trying to find them or communicate to them.
Right.
I mean, we've sent out probes, right? We've sent out plenty of probes. What would stop any other? Like, does life just generally want to expand? Period. Right. Life does expand on its own, and I just think it's natural for life to want to extend beyond its boundaries. Whether it's a plant, whether it's a tree, whether it's anything, right? Fungus, the mushroom kingdom, animals that move around, humans. Clearly we've taken over the planet. It just makes sense that any life anywhere, at least in reference to ours, would want to be out expanding, searching, looking. And with the expanse of the universe, like how many, right? There would clearly be other civilizations out there sending out probes as well. So the idea would be that human beings, and this time only, in all the billions of years, the only small window that probes something from that planet built by life on that planet was sent out. We're the only ones that have ever done it. That seems the most unlikely to me. So I don't know. Sorry, Clint, go ahead.
I was just going to dovetail off of something Simon said and something you just said, that they could be watching. Maybe it's not nuclear weapons that they're really interested in. Maybe they're interested in AI. Because once we unlock artificial superintelligence, we have the keys to the machine now. We can do science at the speed of light. And we become suddenly, not only do we become a big unknown factor in any decision-making process that they may have, but they
AI
have to contend with the AI itself. And maybe there is a motive. Maybe there is a decision making. There's a decision point where they have to decide, like, do we let them get that far, or do we interfere in some way and prevent that?
Or we don't talk to them till they've This is a theory I've heard, and maybe it was discussed with you guys last time. They won't talk to us till that super AI is created, and then it's like finally a level of intelligence we can communicate with. They can that AI can then talk to their human creators, but we're not just going to start talking to the human. Like, what's the point? Well, we're never going to get anywhere. Let's wait till they build this super intelligence, then we'll talk.
Super interesting, because one, from a psychological perspective, is one is about protecting us, and we're going to immediately go to that. While they don't want us to destroy our planet, they care about the other is preventing us from being a threat ourselves. I'm assuming that's the AI explanation, right?
Yeah,
because if you AI unlocks, let's say they've spent 75 years on reverse engineering these things, and suddenly we can do 30,000 years worth of progress crunching numbers in an AI, simulating the research and the materials science and all the different things. I mean, it might multiply our progress by a factor of 100 over the next 50 years or more.
It will.
Exponential. Right. We're in that top of that curve going up.
And it might be not long before we figure out who they are, where they're from. We have their technology figured out. We can rebuild it. We can do stuff with it, or at least come close. That might be unnerving.
Or the paperclip theory, and we're all screwed.
Well, Ray Kurzweil had this whole thing where he said that from using von Neumann probes, we could colonize like all of known space in some like really ridiculously small amount of time. It was like very small. And he was saying how post-singularity, the super AIs of that era, 100 years from now, that's what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to turn all the matter in the universe into compute by reconfiguring it with nanotechnology. This is Ray Kurzweil saying this. So if Ray knows this and he's saying that,
but then wouldn't another civilization already done that, and we would be part of?
Great question. I don't know.
Wouldn't we be on the receiving end, and there would be all kinds of civilizations that have, quote unquote, mapped the universe, or the universe is far more expansive than we think it is, right? We already think it's massive, but it's even far more expansive than that. And or there's another dimension to life that we still haven't broken through yet, that's hidden there with this. So I don't know. All right, let's hidden. Yes, hidden. All right, this is from James Grover. He says, has anyone ever thought of bringing a lawsuit against government for cover-up? So even if you lose case, you still get subpoena power. Sure. I'm sure that's been thought of. I can't imagine someone in small claims court, right, going in like, listen, who are you suing? The damn government, man. They're covering up aliens. Yeah, you're that's
actually,
I mean, I guess.
Subpoena power was the thing that got the disclosure amendment thrown out. Like that's the thing that they really didn't want was subpoena power and eminent domain.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I say go for it, right? I think any people have ideas for citizen disclosure and want to research and study and do that. I say go for it. I think going into a small claims court and trying to bring a lawsuit is probably not going to go anywhere, because even you're not going to get subpoena power. They're not going to be like, yeah, go ahead, subpoena the president for your court case here.
Announce the next Burning Man is going to be at Area 51, like at S4, and then you do it there. And what are they? Make the government fire on Chris Rock and everybody else. Like they're not going to kill all these celebrities. They'll have to fold. They have to.
Yeah,
they're gonna kill 100,000 ravers in like aluminum foil costumes and gigantic boots.
Guys, send in the missiles. Wait! I just got word. Chris Rock is there. Everybody, let's stop. Stop.
Right.
They'll get on the base.
Will Smith is walking up to him again. Hang on. I want to see where this goes.
Yeah.
All right. Andre says, "Hi all. Any thoughts on the Black Knight satellite, which I kind of what." Sounded like what you were talking about earlier, Clint, about this probe that's around, right? That's what they've imagined the Blacklight satellite to be.
Yeah.
Essentially, right? Same thing.
I don't know. Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Could be.
I don't know. Yeah, could be. Is Andre again says, is the James Webb Space Telescope our great filter? That's interesting.
Ooh, yeah.
What do they mean by that exactly?
Yeah, who wants? Dan, you want to do great filter?
You go ahead.
No, I don't.
I don't know what they mean by that.
To be honest, I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to. Yeah, I don't know.
Can I say something on Black Knight?
Yeah.
I feel like the Black Knight satellite is something that we could crowdfund. We could get Elon to send a ship up there. Like, why? This feels like something we could just do. Like, we could probably go get a look at it. Civilians.
Go get it. Yeah.
Send up a CubeSat, and I mean, Elon just put up. He owns more satellites than anyone else in the world. Surely we could crowdfund. I mean, how many millions? What does it cost?
Well, I did an X post on that, saying that based on the number of satellites, we could actually. We already have evidence. We already have evidence of the phenomenon based on the number of satellites, and I'll send it to you if I have a way of doing that.
Love to see it.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
I figured it out mathematically. It took me days to do it.
Oh wow!
Good.
Okay. Damn, Dan. All right. Listen to you. This is it. This is the picture I found on Wikipedia that there's something floating around in our orbit that people call the black satellite.
This makes sense to me because if you're an alien civilization or a non-human intelligence and you look around at all the candidates for potential life, like you're going to look at planets that have water, you're going to look at planets that have the ingredients for life, you're going to know what all those things are. You park a satellite in orbit, you let it sit there, and as soon as it starts picking up technosignatures, it calls home, lets you know, and then you get to pay either closer attention to it or you get to follow up or do something, but you have options.
Sure.
That seems very reasonable to me. Good.
It's much more reasonable that it's in orbit or it's somewhere in our solar system. Yeah, no, I think it's quite likely. There's a good theory that it would probably be orbiting the sun because you could then make a network of other stars.
That's what I was going to say.
No,
not that smart, but something similar. Not as smart as you said it. I was just going to say. Putting it around one planet seems, it's
or maybe
like
there's a bigger there's
security
an
cam facing the corner, right? You don't put a security cam facing the corner. You put it where can I get the most coverage,
right?
See something that's a threat. I would think you would put something if you had that capability. It would have a wide range potentially, and you'd put it somewhere central where it's getting the most coverage, right? So around the sun. Clearly our solar system, everything's going around that.
And it's not just our solar system. You would have every solar system. You'd build a web.
You'd go to the sun and connect them all together. I'm with you.
So I figured out, so I looked up the Great Filter concept. The Great Filter is a term from the Fermi paradox, which questions why, given the vast number of stars. Yeah. You know about this, Simon? So shall I not? It's a brief paragraph.
No. Please just read it out because that's better.
Questions why, given the vast number of stars and potentially habitable planets in the universe, we haven't found evidence of alien civilizations. The Great Filter posits that there is a stage in the development of life that is incredibly difficult to surpass. This stage could be anywhere along the path from the formation of life to becoming an advanced space-faring civilization. The idea suggests that if life hasn't spread across the universe, the filter may be preventing that from happening. Then it goes into, James Webb Space Telescop's role and the Great Filter.
A wall that all life hits that they can't get past, essentially, for whatever reason. Absolutely. I've thought about that. I mean, if you think about nuclear arms, right? That's you're talking about a moment that could change everything forever. And if we've created this, and a lot of countries have armed themselves. It's almost like inevitably, what are the odds that there would never be a nuclear missile or rocket fired, even if it's by accident? Right?
We've already dropped 2 on civilians.
That's what I'm saying. But that was
we dropped 2 atomic bombs on people.
And then the promise was made, we're not going to do that, right? Like this will be a serious thing. We've created backline communications with Russia, and now more countries have this nuclear arms. But in my opinion, just with time and inevitability, just there's going to be some sort of nuclear war. And once it starts, if you send one missile, why wouldn't you send them all? Because if you send one, that's like starting, you know what I mean? It's like a battle. The problem with it, in my opinion, again, I'm not a war expert, I'm not Pat, I don't know anything. But in my opinion, if you start a battle like that, you almost have to win the war immediately in the same sense, right? Because if you fire one rocket, well, they're just going to fire a bunch more back at you. So you'd think of that and go, well, let's just hit them with everything we got and get rid of that country, period. Because if we let them fire back at us, we're screwed. I don't know. I just think.
It's mutually assured destruction. That's why you have to destroy them first. That would be preemptive.
Famous Iron Maiden
song. And how won't that happen one day? And to me, that could be the Great Filter.
Totally. There's a famous Iron Maiden song, 2 Minutes to Midnight. Remember 2 Minutes to Midnight? About how close we came to nuclear Armageddon. You know what the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists has the clock at right now? 90 seconds to midnight.
Right.
We're closer than the song that made it famous.
Yeah. We are.
These warheads, these are multiple, warheads on one missile. You fired like 150 missiles. Each one's got like 6, 12, 18 warheads on it.
Totally.
Now, it could be, I'm interested in what Simon had to say. It could be that maybe there's just a better way of communicating and everybody switches to quantum radio and we're not seeing it because that's just not how people talk. These signals aren't. I heard an interesting
100%.
Simon. Do you know about? Somebody said recently that there was a group looking at. They posited that you could look for gravity distortions. You could look for gravity distortions to see if ships were traveling at warp throughout space. Have you heard of this?
Possibly.
Like the way that we detected the gravity waves, there's a similar if a ship was warping space time, and it would leave a wake behind it.
Oh,
absolutely, it would leave a wake. And also, there's this very strange phenomenon that supposedly is being deployed by the military. Is there's a reversal of Doppler shift in light. So the actual physics of something, when it was, say, leaving the scene, going kind of leaping into a warp space, you would expect it to be going away, so it would be a red shift. But in fact, you get this terrible blue shift when something jumps into warp. And that blue shift has been proven to be dangerous to health, very dangerous to human health. And what I heard is that it's possible to alter U.S. Air Force sensors one way. When you see a UAP, you can see if there's reverse Doppler. I've been getting this from physicists. So, yeah, there's definitely a signature.
Wow.
I love it. Look, guys, I think we've gone a little bit over what I had intended, which was great. I could probably talk to you guys forever.
Sure.
So I like we like leaving people wanting more, baby. That's my goal here. So look, as we're going out here, is anyone? I want to give everyone a chance to maybe just promote their stuff, or where people can sort of contact you. Dan, I'll start with you.
I don't have a show. I don't have a podcast. But I'm my Twitter X handle is at ANX Whisperer, like for Anxiety Whisperer. And it's Dr. Dan at Anxiety Whisperer.
Awesome.
Good.
I got links in the description, Dan, so people can go in there and click to get to your Twitter. Clint, go ahead, brother.
You can find me over on YouTube over at Nightshift. Just go to youtube.com/Nightshift or teamnightshift.com. We're over there. Just hanging out, talking about UFOs, taking it seriously.
Yeah. Again, link in the description for Clint's as well, and Simon's.
Doing some great deep dives, Clint.
Good.
Oh, thanks, Dr. Dan. Appreciate that.
Yeah. My most exciting news of today is I interviewed Tasmin Archer, who wrote Sleeping Satellite. So that's obviously on my YouTube channel. So yeah, there's lots of interesting things coming up. Yeah.
I love your channel, Simon. It's awesome. I'm such a fan.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Of course. 100%. Well, look, gentlemen, I love doing this. Clearly, this is going to become a routine where we kind of all get together and chat and hang out because the people want it, right? So, yes, thank you guys for coming on and talking about this. I know we went over a lot of stuff. I hope everyone that watched enjoyed everything. And if you, again, links in the description to check out Dr. Dan's Twitter, Clint's Night Shift podcast, and of course Simon's show as well. Go check it out, and links as well that I'm going to be adding as soon as the stream is over to some of the things that I featured in today's live stream, as well as some extra links if you want to learn more about what was it called, the Breakthrough Listener Project. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you to all the mods who help run the chat. Thank y'all so much. And of course, just to you watching. And again, you could be watching anything, but you chose to click on this video and watch with us. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And this was awesome. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is the V for vetted. This is not live long and prosper. This is vetted.
Remember, y'all, every day's a gift.